The sound of distant hoofbeats echoed through the mountain pass, as Delilah Armstrong clutched the tiny bundle closer to her chest, her breath coming in ragged gasps while she pressed herself against the cold rock face, praying the riders would pass by without noticing the narrow crevice where she hid. It was the summer of 1873 in the Colorado Territory, and Delilah had been running for 3 days straight with barely any food or water. The baby beneath her woolen shawl whimpered softly, and she gently rocked back and forth, humming a low tune to keep him quiet. Her husband had been dead for 2 months now, killed in a mining accident outside of Denver, and his brother had wasted no time in trying to claim both her and the baby as his own property. The law would not help her. Women had few rights, and family disputes were considered private matters. So she ran. The hoofbeats grew louder, then gradually faded into the distance. Delilah waited another full minute before she dared to peek out from her hiding spot. The mountain trail stretched empty in both directions, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. She needed to keep moving. The next town could not be far now. Someone in Manassas had told her there was work for women willing to do laundry and cooking. She could disappear there, start over, become someone new. Her legs trembled as she stepped back onto the trail. The baby, little Thomas, began to cry in earnest now, his tiny face turning red with hunger and discomfort. She had nothing left to feed him. The goat milk she had managed to procure from a sympathetic farmer's wife 2 days ago was long gone. Desperation clawed at her throat as she stumbled forward, one foot in front of the other, her vision blurring from exhaustion. The town appeared like a mirage in the distance, a collection of wooden buildings nestled in a valley with mountains rising on all sides. Manassas, Colorado. She had made it. Relief flooded through her body, nearly buckling her knees. Just a little farther. She could make it just a little farther. Delilah barely registered the main street as she walked through it, her focus narrowed to the simple task of putting one foot in front of the other. People stared at her, this wild-looking woman with tangled brown hair and a dirt-stained dress, but she did not care. The baby's cries grew weaker, which frightened her more than his loud wailing had. She spotted a water trough outside what looked like a general store and stumbled toward it, her hand reaching out. The world tilted suddenly, and she felt herself falling. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground, and she found herself looking up into a pair of concerned gray eyes set in a weathered, handsome face. "Easy there, miss," a deep voice said. "I have got you." Delilah tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. The baby whimpered again, and the man's eyes widened as he realized what she was carrying. "You have got a little one with you," he said, his voice gentle now. "Let me help you. Can you stand?" She nodded weakly, and he helped her to her feet, supporting most of her weight as he guided her toward the water trough. He dipped his bandana into the water and offered it to her. She sucked on the wet cloth gratefully, the moisture soothing her parched throat. "The baby," she managed to whisper. "He needs milk." The man nodded quickly. "My name is Nathan Pierce. Come with me. The boarding house is just down the street. Mrs. Henderson has a new baby of her own. She might be willing to help." Delilah allowed Nathan to guide her down the wooden sidewalk. She was vaguely aware of other people watching them, but she was too tired to care about propriety or what anyone might think. The boarding house was a 2-story structure painted white with green trim, and Nathan helped her up the steps and through the front door. "Mrs. Henderson," he called out. "We need your help." A plump woman in her 40s appeared from a back room, wiping her hands on her apron. Her eyes widened when she saw Delilah's condition. "Mercy, what happened to this poor girl?" "She needs help," Nathan said simply. "And her baby needs milk." Mrs. Henderson did not hesitate. She took charge immediately, ushering Delilah into a small parlor and easing her onto a settee. "Let me see the little one." Delilah reluctantly loosened her shawl, revealing the tiny infant. He could not have been more than 2 months old, his little face pinched with hunger. Mrs. Henderson made a sympathetic sound and scooped him up with practiced ease. "Poor mite," she murmured. "I will feed him right away. You just rest, dear." As Mrs. Henderson disappeared with Thomas, Delilah felt the last of her strength drain away. She closed her eyes, barely aware of Nathan's presence as he pulled a chair closer and sat down, as if standing guard. When she woke, the room was dim with evening shadows. Someone had covered her with a quilt, and the exhaustion that had plagued her for days had eased to a manageable level. She sat up slowly, her muscles protesting, and looked around the parlor. Nathan Pierce still sat in the chair nearby, though he had moved it back to give her more space. He was reading a book by the light of a lamp. "You stayed," she said, her voice hoarse but stronger than before. He looked up and closed the book. "I wanted to make sure you were all right. Mrs. Henderson fed your son. He is sleeping upstairs in her room." Panic flared in Delilah's chest. "I need to see him." "Of course," Nathan said, rising. "I will take you up." He offered his hand, and she took it, noting the calluses that spoke of hard work. He was tall, probably in his late 20s, with dark blonde hair and those striking gray eyes. His face was sun-weathered but kind, with strong features and a few days' worth of stubble on his jaw. Mrs. Henderson's room was on the second floor, and sure enough, little Thomas lay sleeping in a basket near the window, his belly finally full. Delilah knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face as relief overwhelmed her. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." "You are welcome to stay here," Mrs. Henderson said from the doorway. "I have a room available, though I will need payment eventually." "I can work," Delilah said quickly. "I can cook and clean and do laundry, whatever you need." Mrs. Henderson smiled warmly. "We will work something out. For now, you need rest and food. Nathan, would you be so kind as to ask my husband to bring up a tray?" "Of course," Nathan said. After he left, Mrs. Henderson helped Delilah to the available room, which was small but clean, with a narrow bed and a washstand. Someone had already brought Thomas's basket in and placed it near the bed. "That Nathan Pierce is a good man," Mrs. Henderson said as she helped Delilah sit on the bed. "He has a ranch about 5 miles outside of town, raises cattle and horses. Lost his parents a few years back and has been running the place on his own since. He is well respected around here." Delilah nodded, filing this information away. "Why did he help me?" Mrs. Henderson smiled. "Because that is the kind of man he is. Now, let me help you out of this dress. You need to wash up and get into something clean." Over the next few days, Delilah slowly regained her strength. She worked hard at the boarding house, earning her keep by helping with cooking and cleaning despite Mrs. Henderson's protests that she needed more rest. But staying busy kept her mind off her worries about her brother-in-law finding her. She had given Mrs. Henderson a false name, calling herself Delilah Andrews instead of Armstrong, and claimed to be a widow passing through. Nathan Pierce came by the boarding house every day, ostensibly to pick up his laundry or have a meal. But Delilah noticed he always found a reason to check on her and Thomas. On the 4th day, he arrived in the late afternoon and found her hanging wash in the backyard while Thomas slept in his basket under the shade of a cottonwood tree. "That is a lot of laundry for one person," Nathan observed, leaning against the fence. Delilah smiled despite herself. "Mrs. Henderson takes in wash from half the town. I am just trying to earn my keep." "You have been through something difficult," Nathan said quietly. "Anyone can see that." Delilah's hand stilled on the shirt she was hanging. She did not turn around. "I do not want to talk about it." "Fair enough," Nathan said. But if you ever need help, I want you to know you can ask me." She did turn then, studying his face. There was no hidden agenda in his expression, just genuine concern. "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." Nathan was quiet for a moment, his gaze drifting to the sleeping baby. "My mother died when I was 10, he said finally. "My father raised me and my sister on his own. It was hard, and there were times when we would not have made it without the help of kind neighbors. I guess I learned that sometimes people need help, and if you are in a position to give it, you should." "You have a sister?" Delilah asked. "Had," Nathan said, his voice tightening slightly. "She died of fever 2 years ago. She was only 20. "I am sorry," Delilah said softly. Nathan nodded, pushing away from the fence. "Anyway, I just wanted to check on you both. I will let you get back to work." As he turned to leave, Delilah found herself calling out, "Nathan." He stopped and looked back. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." He tipped his hat to her and smiled, and something warm unfurled in Delilah's chest, something she had not felt in a very long time. The following Sunday, Nathan appeared at the boarding house in a clean shirt and vest, his hair neatly combed. "Mrs. Henderson answered the door and called up the stairs for Delilah. "Nathan Pierce is here to see you." Delilah came down with Thomas on her hip, wearing the only decent dress she owned, a simple blue cotton that Mrs. Henderson had given her. Nathan's eyes lit up when he saw her. "I was wondering if you might like to take a walk," he said. "It is a beautiful day, and I thought the baby might enjoy some fresh air." Delilah hesitated. She had not been anywhere except the boarding house and the general store since arriving in Manassas. But the look in Nathan's eyes was so hopeful that she found herself nodding. "Let me get my shawl." They walked through town toward the creek that ran along the eastern edge of Manassas. The late summer sun was warm but not oppressive, and a pleasant breeze rustled through the cottonwoods. Thomas gazed around with wide eyes, taking in the new sights. "How old is he?" Nathan asked as they followed the path along the creek bank. 2 months, Delilah said. "He was born in early June." "He is a handsome boy," Nathan said. "He has your eyes." Delilah smiled down at her son. "He does not he? But he has his father's nose." "Your husband," Nathan said carefully. "How long has he been gone?" "He died 2 months ago," Delilah said, deciding to stick as close to the truth as possible. "Mining accident." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "That must have been very hard, especially with a new baby." "It was," Delilah admitted. "Things became complicated after he died. I had to leave." Nathan did not press for more details, which she appreciated. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, watching the water flow over smooth stones. Eventually, they found a spot to sit under a large tree, and Delilah spread out her shawl for Thomas to lie on. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said, lying back on his elbows in the grass. "I suppose," Delilah said cautiously. "Why did you come to Manassas specifically? It is not exactly on the way to anywhere." Delilah considered her answer carefully. "Someone told me it was a good town, that people here minded their own business but helped when needed." "That is true enough," Nathan said. "It is a Mormon settlement mostly, good people. I am not Mormon myself, but they have always treated me fairly." "What about you?" Delilah asked, turning the conversation away from herself. "You said you have a ranch. Do you like it?" Nathan's face softened. "I love it. It is hard work, but there is something satisfying about building something with your own hands, about working with the land and the animals. My father started the ranch when I was just a boy. We came out here from Missouri after the war. He wanted a fresh start, someplace where the fighting had not touched. He built that ranch from nothing, and now it is mine to care for." "It sounds wonderful," Delilah said wistfully. "You should come see it sometime," Nathan said. "I mean, if you want to, no pressure." Delilah found herself smiling. I would like that. As the weeks passed, Nathan became a regular fixture in Delilah's life. He came by the boarding house several times a week, always finding an excuse to visit. Sometimes he brought fresh vegetables from his garden. Other times he offered to help with heavy chores around the boarding house. Mrs. Henderson watched their growing friendship with approval, often leaving them alone to talk in the parlor or on the front porch. One evening, about 6 weeks after Delilah arrived in Manassas, Nathan brought his wagon and asked if she would like to see the ranch. Delilah bundled up Thomas and climbed onto the wagon seat beside Nathan, her heart fluttering with an emotion she was not quite ready to name. The ride took about 30 minutes, following a well-worn path that wound through the valley and into the foothills. The ranch came into view gradually, starting with the pastures where cattle grazed, then the corrals with horses, and finally the main house itself. It was a beautiful place. The house was built of wood and stone, solid and well-maintained, with a wide porch that wrapped around the front and side. There was a barn, a stable, and several other outbuildings. Everything spoke of hard work and careful attention. "It is beautiful," Delilah breathed as Nathan helped her down from the wagon. "Thank you," Nathan said, looking pleased. "I keep it up as best I can. My father would not have accepted anything less." He gave her a tour of the property, showing her the barn where the hay was stored, the chicken coop, the garden that was still producing late summer vegetables. Thomas seemed enchanted by the horses, reaching out his little hands toward them. Nathan laughed and held the baby up close to one of the gentler mares, letting Thomas touch the soft nose. "He likes animals," Nathan observed. "He has never been around them before," Delilah said. "We lived in Denver in a boarding house not unlike Mrs. Henderson's." "Denver is a long way from here," Nathan said. "Yes," Delilah agreed quietly. "It is." Back at the house, Nathan made coffee and they sat on the porch, watching the sun begin its descent toward the mountains. Thomas had fallen asleep in Delilah's arms, exhausted from all the new experiences. "I have been thinking," Nathan said carefully, his eyes on the horizon, "about you and Thomas." Delilah's heart began to beat faster. "What about us?" Nathan turned to look at her, his gray eyes serious. "I know you are running from something. You do not have to tell me what it is. But I want you to know that you are safe here, in Manassas with me. If you need protection, I can offer that." "Nathan," Delilah began, but he held up his hand. "Let me finish," he said. "I know we have not known each other very long, but I have come to care about you both very deeply. More than I probably should admit, and I have been thinking that maybe, if you were willing, we could help each other." "What do you mean?" Delilah whispered. Nathan set down his coffee cup and leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. "This ranch is a good place, but it is lonely. I have been running it by myself for 2 years now, and every day I wake up wishing there was someone to share it with, someone to build a life with. And Thomas needs a father, someone to protect him and teach him and love him." Delilah's breath caught in her throat. "Nathan, what are you saying?" He met her eyes directly. "I am saying let me be the father you both need. Marry me, Delilah. Let me give you both a home and a name that no one will question. Let me protect you from whatever you are running from." Tears spilled down Delilah's cheeks before she could stop them. "You do not know what you are offering. My past, the things I am running from, they could bring trouble to your door." "I can handle trouble," Nathan said firmly. "And whatever it is, we will face it together. You do not have to be alone anymore." "Why?" Delilah asked, her voice breaking. "Why would you do this for us? You could find any woman to marry, someone without complications, without baggage." Nathan reached out and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Because when I look at you, I see someone worth fighting for. Someone brave and strong who has been through hell and came out the other side. And when I hold Thomas, I feel something I have not felt since my sister died. I feel like I have a purpose again. I feel like maybe I could be the kind of father my own father was. The kind who loves fiercely and protects what is his. Delilah closed her eyes, letting the tears flow freely now. She had been so afraid for so long, running and hiding, always looking over her shoulder. The idea of having a safe place, a home, someone to share the burden with, it was almost too good to be true. "There is something you need to know," she said finally, opening her eyes. "My real name is Armstrong, not Andrews. My husband's brother, after my husband died, he tried to claim me as his wife. Said it was his right according to some old tradition. When I refused, he became violent. I took Thomas and ran. He might come looking for me." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "What is his name?" "Samuel Armstrong. He lives in Denver, works at the mines." "And if he comes here?" Nathan asked. "I do not know," Delilah admitted. "He is a violent man, Nathan. I do not want to put you in danger." Nathan stood and walked to the porch railing, looking out over his land. When he turned back to her, his expression was resolute. "If he comes here, he will find that you are under my protection as my wife. The law recognizes a man's right to protect his family, and out here, a man's word and his ability to back it up means something. I am not afraid of Samuel Armstrong." "You should be," Delilah whispered. "Maybe," Nathan said, coming back to sit beside her. "But I am more afraid of living the rest of my life alone, wondering what might have been if I had not been brave enough to reach out for what I want. And what I want, Delilah, is you and Thomas. I want to build a family with you. I want to watch Thomas grow up and teach him to ride and rope. I want to give you a home where you feel safe and loved. I want all of it." Delilah looked down at Thomas, sleeping peacefully in her arms. He deserved a good life, a safe life, with a father who would love him and protect him. And she realized, deserved a chance at happiness too. She had spent so long just surviving that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to actually want something, to hope for something. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Nathan, I will marry you." The joy that flooded Nathan's face was worth every moment of fear and doubt. He leaned forward and gently kissed her forehead, careful not to disturb the baby between them. "You will not regret this," he said. "I promise you. I will spend every day of my life making sure you and Thomas are happy and safe." They were married a week later by the Mormon bishop in Manasseh. It was a simple ceremony, with Mrs. Henderson and her husband as witnesses. Delilah wore a dress that Mrs. Henderson helped her make from fabric Nathan had purchased at the general store, a pretty cream-colored cotton with tiny blue flowers. Nathan wore his best suit, and he could not stop smiling as they exchanged vows. When the bishop pronounced them man and wife, Nathan kissed her gently, and Delilah felt something inside her chest that had been locked tight for months finally begin to open. Maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be all right. They moved to the ranch the next day. Nathan had spent the week preparing, cleaning the house from top to bottom, and setting up a small nursery in one of the spare bedrooms for Thomas. He had even built a cradle with his own hands, working late into the night to have it ready. "You did all this for us?" Delilah asked, running her hand over the smooth wood of the cradle. "I wanted you to feel welcome," Nathan said, looking almost shy. "I want you to think of this as your home now, not just mine." That first night in their new home, after Thomas was settled in his cradle, Nathan and Delilah stood awkwardly in the bedroom they would now share. The enormity of what they had done suddenly hit them both. They were married, but they barely knew each other. They had not discussed the physical aspects of their marriage, and the tension hung heavy in the air. "I can sleep in the other room if you want," Nathan offered. "I do not expect anything from you that you are not ready to give." Delilah looked at this man who had offered her and her son everything without asking for anything in return. He was handsome and kind, and when he looked at her, she felt something she had not felt in her first marriage, something warm and exciting and terrifying all at once. "No," she said softly. "Stay. We are married now. This is your room, our room." Nathan nodded, still looking uncertain. They prepared for bed in self-conscious silence, changing into nightclothes on opposite sides of the room. When they finally lay down together, Nathan kept a respectful distance between them. "Good night, Delilah," he said softly. "Good night, Nathan," she replied. But as the darkness settled around them, Delilah found herself scooting closer, seeking the warmth and comfort of another human being after so many lonely, frightening nights. Nathan's arm came around her immediately, pulling her against his chest, and she felt his lips brush the top of her head. "You are safe now," he murmured. "I have got you." For the first time in months, Delilah slept without nightmares. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Nathan worked the ranch during the day, tending to the cattle and horses, mending fences, and handling the 1,000 other tasks that came with running a spread. Delilah took over the household duties, cooking and cleaning and caring for Thomas. She also started a vegetable garden near the house, something she had always wanted but never had the space for in Denver. Nathan was patient and gentle with her, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. But slowly, almost without realizing it, Delilah found herself falling in love with her husband. It was in the little things. The way he always washed up before coming to the dinner table because he knew she had worked hard on the meal. The way he took over watching Thomas in the evenings so she could have time to herself. The way he looked at her like she was precious and valuable and worth protecting. One evening, about a month after their wedding, Delilah was washing dishes when Nathan came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Hello, wife," he murmured, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Hello, husband," she replied, leaning back against him. "Did you finish mending the fence in the south pasture?" "I did. And I checked on the cattle. Everyone looks healthy." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I was thinking maybe tomorrow we could go into town together. There is a social next week, and I thought we could get some fabric for a new dress for you." "Nathan, you already bought me fabric for my wedding dress." "I want to buy you more," he said simply. "I want to buy you 100 dresses if that would make you happy." Delilah turned in his arms, soap suds dripping from her hands. "You make me happy," she said, surprising herself with the admission. Nathan's eyes softened and he cupped her face in his hands. "You make me happy too, happier than I have been in a very long time." He kissed her then, a real kiss, not the chaste pecks they had been exchanging. Delilah felt heat flood through her body as she kissed him back, her soapy hands gripping his shirt. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "Delilah," Nathan said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know this marriage started as a way to protect you and Thomas, but it has become so much more than that for me. I love you. I love you both. And if you do not feel the same way, that is all right. I will wait as long as it takes, but I needed you to know." "I love you too," Delilah whispered, tears streaming down her face again, but this time they were tears of joy. "I did not think I could love again, but you have shown me that I can. You have given me everything, Nathan. A home, safety, a father for my son, and now this. I love you so much." That night, their marriage became real in every sense of the word. Nathan was gentle and patient, making sure Delilah felt loved and cherished. And when they finally fell asleep in each other's arms, both knew that what had started as a practical arrangement had become something beautiful and true. The social the following week was a lively affair. The entire town turned out for it, the Mormon families in their best clothes, the children running around playing games, the women setting out food on long tables. Nathan introduced Delilah to everyone as his wife, pride evident in his voice. She was welcomed warmly by the community, particularly by the other young mothers who were delighted to have a new friend. Delilah was laughing at something one of the women said when she felt Nathan tense beside her. She followed his gaze and saw a man on horseback riding into town. He was dusty from travel with a hard face and cold eyes. Her blood turned to ice. Samuel Armstrong had found her. "Nathan," she whispered, gripping his arm. "I see him," Nathan said calmly. "Stay here with the women. I will handle this." "Nathan, no, he is dangerous." "So am I when someone threatens my family," Nathan said, and there was steel in his voice she had never heard before. He walked out to meet Samuel, positioning himself between the other man and Delilah. She watched with her heart in her throat as the two men faced each other. The music and laughter around them gradually died away as people sensed trouble. "Can I help you?" Nathan asked, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. Samuel looked past him to Delilah. "I am here for my wife and child. That woman there belongs to me." "That woman is my wife," Nathan said firmly. "We were married a month ago by the bishop. She and the boy are under my protection." "She was married to my brother," Samuel snarled. "When he died, she became my responsibility. She had no right to run off with his child." "Your brother died, which made her a widow," Nathan said. "And as a widow, she had every right to remarry whoever she chose. She chose me. The law supports that." "The hell with the law," Samuel spat, dismounting. He was a big man, bigger than Nathan, with the look of someone who settled disputes with his fists. "I came all this way to get what is mine." Nathan did not back down. "The only thing you are going to get is a trip back to wherever you came from. Delilah is my wife. Thomas is my son. You have no claim here." Samuel lunged at Nathan without warning, but Nathan was ready. He sidestepped the charge and landed a solid punch to Samuel's ribs. Samuel staggered but recovered quickly, landing a blow to Nathan's jaw that snapped his head back. The fight was brutal but mercifully short. Nathan was smaller but faster, and more importantly, he was fighting for something that mattered. When Samuel tried to pull a knife, Nathan knocked it from his hand and delivered a final punch that sent Samuel crashing to the ground. "Stay down," Nathan warned, breathing hard. "If you get up, I will put you down again, and next time I might not be so gentle about it." Several of the Mormon men had gathered around, ready to step in if needed. The bishop came forward, his expression stern. "You heard Mr. Pierce," the bishop said to Samuel. "The woman is his legal wife. You have no claim here. I suggest you leave Manasseh and do not come back." Samuel slowly got to his feet, wiping blood from his lip. He looked past Nathan to Delilah, and the hatred in his eyes made her shudder. "This is not over," he said. "Yes, it is," Nathan said firmly. "If you come near my family again, I will make sure you regret it. Now get on your horse and ride out." Samuel glared at them for another long moment, then mounted his horse and rode away. The tension in the air slowly dissipated as people returned to the social, though there was much excited discussion about what had just happened. Nathan came back to Delilah, and she threw herself into his arms, shaking. "It is all right," he murmured, holding her tight. "He is gone. You are safe." "What if he comes back?" Delilah whispered. "Then I will deal with him again," Nathan said. "But I do not think he will. Men like that are bullies. They back down when someone stands up to them." Mrs. Henderson came over and gently took Thomas from Delilah's arms. "Why do not you two take a moment?" she said kindly. "I will watch the baby." Nathan led Delilah away from the crowd to a quiet spot under the cottonwood trees. She was still shaking, the terror of the confrontation catching up with her. "I am sorry," she said. "I brought this trouble to you." "He hurt you." Nathan touched his swelling jaw and smiled. This is nothing, and you did not bring trouble. He did. But it is over now, Delilah. He is gone, and he will not be back. I made sure of that. How can you be sure? Because he saw that you are protected, that you have a whole community behind you now. And because he saw that I am willing to fight for you. Men like Samuel only fight when they think they can win. He knows now that he cannot. Delilah leaned her head against Nathan's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "You fought for me," she whispered. "Of course I did," Nathan said, tilting her chin up so she was looking at him. "I love you. I will always fight for you and Thomas. That is what family means." "Family," Delilah repeated, and the word felt like a promise, like a prayer answered. They stayed at the social for another hour, both to show Samuel that they would not be driven away, and because the community rallied around them, making it clear that Delilah and Nathan were accepted and supported. By the time they headed home, Delilah felt something she had not felt in a very long time: secure. That night, after Thomas was asleep, Delilah and Nathan sat on their porch, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Nathan's jaw was bruised, but he seemed unbothered by it. "Thank you," Delilah said softly, "for everything. For taking us in, for giving us a home, for protecting us, for loving us." Nathan took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "You do not need to thank me. You and Thomas are my family now. I will always protect you, always love you. That is not something you need to earn or repay. It just is." Delilah squeezed his hand. "I never thought I would find this. After my first husband died, I thought my life was over. I thought all that was left was fear and running. But then you found me, and you gave me hope again. You gave me love again." "We found each other," Nathan corrected gently. "And we are going to have a good life together, Delilah. I promise you that." As the weeks turned into months, that promise proved true. Samuel never returned to Manasseh, and gradually Delilah stopped looking over her shoulder, stopped jumping at unexpected sounds. The ranch thrived under Nathan's careful management, and Delilah discovered she had a talent for raising chickens and selling eggs in town, adding to their income. Thomas grew from a tiny infant into a chubby, happy baby who adored his father. Nathan spent hours with the boy, talking to him, playing with him, carrying him around the ranch and showing him everything. Watching them together never failed to make Delilah's heart swell with love. The first snow came in November, blanketing the ranch in white. Nathan had prepared well, stocking up on supplies and making sure all the buildings were winterized. They settled in for the cold months, and Delilah discovered a new kind of happiness in the quiet, cozy evenings spent by the fire while the wind howled outside. One evening in December, as they sat together on the sofa with Thomas playing on a blanket at their feet, Nathan suddenly said, "I have been thinking about something." "What is that?" Delilah asked, looking up from the shirt she was mending. "I want to officially adopt Thomas," Nathan said. "I know he has his father's name, but I want him to have my name too. I want everyone to know he is my son." Delilah set down her mending, tears springing to her eyes. "Nathan, that would mean everything to me, to us." "Then we will do it," Nathan said firmly. "After the new year, we will go to Denver and make it legal. Thomas Pierce. It has a good sound to it." "It does," Delilah agreed. "A very good sound." Nathan reached over and took her hand. "There is something else I have been thinking about." "What is that?" He looked almost shy. "I would like for Thomas to have brothers and sisters someday. If you want that too, I mean. I know it is still early in our marriage, but I have always wanted a big family." Delilah smiled, her heart full. "I want that too. I want to fill this house with children and love and laughter." Nathan pulled her close and kissed her deeply. "Then that is what we will do." The winter passed peacefully, and when spring came, it brought new life to the ranch. The cattle had calves, the horses had foals, and Delilah discovered she was pregnant. When she told Nathan, he picked her up and spun her around, laughing with pure joy. "We are going to have a baby," he said, wonder in his voice. "Our baby." "Our baby," Delilah confirmed, laughing and crying at the same time. Thomas was walking now, toddling around the house and getting into everything. He called Nathan Papa, and the first time he said it, Nathan had to excuse himself to the barn where Delilah later found him with tears streaming down his face. "I never thought I would have this," he admitted to her. "A wife, children, a real family. After I lost my sister, I thought I was meant to be alone." "You are not alone," Delilah said, wrapping her arms around him. "You will never be alone again. We are your family and we are not going anywhere." They made the trip to Denver in May, when Delilah was about 3 months along and still able to travel comfortably. The adoption was finalized quickly, and Thomas officially became Thomas Pierce. They stayed away from the mining district where Samuel worked, not wanting any chance encounters, but the trip was successful and uneventful. On the way back to Manassas, they stopped to rest by a creek, and Nathan spread out a blanket for them to sit on. Thomas immediately headed for the water, and Nathan scooped him up before he could fall in, making the boy giggle. "You have to watch this one," Nathan said to Delilah, grinning. "He has no fear." "He gets that from his father," Delilah said, then caught herself. "From you, I mean." "You are his father." Nathan settled Thomas on his lap and reached for Delilah's hand. "I know what you meant, and it is all right. Thomas's first father gave him life, and I will always respect that. But I am the one who gets to raise him, teach him, love him. I am the lucky one in all of this." Delilah leaned against Nathan's shoulder, one hand resting on her growing belly. "We are all lucky. I came to Manassas with nothing but fear and a baby under my shawl, running from a terrible situation. And I found you. I found love and safety and a home. I found everything I did not even know I was looking for." "I found everything too," Nathan said softly. "You are my whole world, Delilah. You and Thomas and this new baby. You are my whole world." Their daughter was born in October of 1874, during an early snowstorm that nearly prevented the midwife from making it to the ranch. But she arrived just in time, and after several hours of labor, Delilah delivered a healthy baby girl with Nathan's gray eyes and a surprisingly loud cry. "She has got spirit," the midwife said approvingly as she cleaned the baby and wrapped her in a blanket. "What will you name her?" Nathan and Delilah looked at each other. They had discussed names but never quite decided. "Grace," Delilah said suddenly. "I want to name her Grace because that is what she is. A grace, a blessing we did not expect but are so grateful for." "Grace Pierce," Nathan said, testing the name. "It is perfect. She is perfect." Thomas, now nearly a year and a half old, was fascinated by his baby sister. He wanted to hold her, touch her, be near her constantly. Nathan and Delilah took turns supervising these interactions, marveling at how gentle their rambunctious son could be with the tiny infant. As Grace grew, the ranch continued to thrive. Nathan had saved enough money to buy additional cattle, expanding the herd. Delilah's egg business had grown too, and she was now supplying several households in Manassas as well as the boarding house. They were becoming prosperous, building something real and lasting. But more than the financial success, it was the love that filled their home that mattered most. Every morning, Delilah woke up next to the man she loved, safe and warm. Every evening they gathered for dinner as a family, sharing stories of their day. Every night they tucked their children into bed, blessing them and thanking God for the gift of family. One evening, when Grace was about 6 months old and Thomas was 2, Nathan and Delilah sat on their porch after the children were asleep, wrapped in a blanket against the cool spring air. "You remember the day we met?" Nathan asked, his arm around Delilah's shoulders. "How could I forget?" Delilah said, "I was at the end of my rope, terrified, exhausted, sure I was going to lose everything, and then you caught me when I fell." "I have caught you many times since then," Nathan said with a smile. "Yes, you have," Delilah agreed. "You have caught me every time I have fallen, in every way that matters." Nathan was quiet for a moment, then said, "I used to wonder what my purpose was. After my parents and sister died, I felt lost. I worked the ranch because it was what I knew, but I did not know why I was doing it. But now I know. I was building a home for you, for us. Everything I went through, all the lonely years, they brought me to that moment when I caught you at the water trough. They brought me to you." Delilah turned to look at her husband, this good, kind man who had given her everything. "And everything I went through brought me to you. All the pain, all the fear, all the running. It was all leading me here to this place, to this life, to you." "I love you," Nathan said simply. "I love you too," Delilah replied. "More than I ever thought possible." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. The ranch was quiet except for the occasional lowing of cattle and the rustle of wind through the trees. It was peaceful, perfect, everything Delilah had dreamed of, but never thought she would have. The years passed in a blur of happiness and hard work. Thomas grew into a strong, confident boy who loved the ranch and everything about it. Nathan taught him to ride when he was 4, and by 5 he was helping with small chores around the property. Grace was quieter than her brother, but just as determined, following him everywhere and insisting she could do anything he could do. In 1877, Delilah gave birth to twin boys, Jacob and Joshua, causing quite a stir in Manasseh. The boys were identical, with dark hair and mischievous smiles, and they kept their parents constantly on their toes. "4 children," Nathan said one evening, looking around the dinner table at his growing family with amazement. "We have 4 children." "You said you wanted a big family," Delilah reminded him with a smile. "I did not I?" Nathan said, grinning. "And I regret nothing, though we might need to add on to the house soon." They did add on to the house the following summer, building 2 additional bedrooms and a larger kitchen. Nathan did most of the work himself with help from some of the men in town, and Delilah kept them all fed with seemingly endless amounts of food. Thomas was 6 now, old enough to really help on the ranch. He took his responsibilities seriously, proud to be working alongside his father. One day Nathan came in for lunch with Thomas trailing behind him, both covered in dirt and grinning. "We fixed the fence in the north pasture all by ourselves," Thomas announced proudly. "Papa said I did a man's job." "You certainly did," Nathan confirmed, ruffling his son's hair. "I could not have done it without you." Delilah served them lunch, watching the easy affection between father and son. Thomas had no memory of his biological father, had never known any father but Nathan, and Nathan had never treated him any differently than he treated Grace and the twins. They were all his children, loved equally and completely. That night, after the children were in bed, Delilah and Nathan celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary quietly. They could not go anywhere with 4 young children, but they did not need to. Everything they wanted was right here. 5 years, Delilah marveled. "It feels like yesterday and forever ago all at once." "Best 5 years of my life," Nathan said, pulling her close. "And I look forward to 50 more, 50 more," Delilah agreed. "At least." As their children grew, so did the ranch. Nathan had a real talent for breeding cattle, and his stock became sought after throughout Colorado. They were able to hire help, a young man named Peter who lived in the bunkhouse and helped with the daily work. This freed Nathan up to spend more time with his family, which he treasured. When Thomas turned 8, Nathan started teaching him to work with the horses in earnest. The boy had a natural gift for it, a gentle touch, and an intuitive understanding of the animals. Grace, now 6, insisted on learning too, and Nathan discovered she had the same gift. The twins, now 4, were a handful. They spoke their own language that no one else could understand, and they were constantly getting into mischief. But they were also sweet and loving, quick to hug and kiss their parents and siblings. One Sunday after church, the family was walking back to their wagon when they ran into Mrs. Henderson. She was older now, her hair completely gray, but her smile was as warm as ever. "Look at this beautiful family," she said, beaming at them. "I remember when you first came to Manasseh, Delilah, with just baby Thomas, and now look at you." "I remember too," Delilah said, hugging the older woman. "You helped save us that day. I will never forget your kindness. And I will never forget watching you and Nathan fall in love, Mrs. Henderson said. It was like watching a miracle unfold, two lonely people finding each other and building something beautiful. After they said goodbye and were heading home, Thomas asked, "Mama, what did Mrs. Henderson mean about when you first came to Manasseh?" Delilah and Nathan exchanged glances. They had never told the children the full story of how they met, had never explained that Thomas was not Nathan's biological son. But Thomas was old enough now to understand. That evening, after the younger children were in bed, they sat down with Thomas and told him everything. How Delilah had been running from a dangerous situation, how Nathan had caught her when she fell, how they had fallen in love and decided to become a family. "So my first father died," Thomas said slowly, processing the information. "And then you married Papa." "Yes," Delilah said gently. "Your first father loved you very much, but he died before he could know you. And then Nathan became your father, and he loves you just as much." Thomas looked at Nathan with serious eyes. "Are you sad that I am not really your son?" Nathan pulled Thomas onto his lap, even though the boy was really getting too big for it. "You listen to me, Thomas. You are really my son. It does not matter that I did not give you life. What matters is that I have loved you every single day since I met you. What matters is that I chose you, chose to be your father, and I would choose you again and again. Do you understand?" Thomas nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I love you, Papa." "I love you too, son," Nathan said, his own voice thick with emotion. "Always." The family continued to grow and thrive. In 1880, when Grace was 6, the twins were 4, and Thomas was 8, Delilah discovered she was pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to another daughter whom they named Hope. "Grace and Hope," Nathan said, holding his newborn daughter. "Our girls are named for blessings." "All our children are blessings," Delilah said, watching as the older children crowded around to see their new sister. Every single one of them. As the 1880s progressed, the West began to change. The railroad had come through Colorado, bringing more people and more civilization. Manasseh grew from a small settlement into a real town with a school, a proper church, and even a telegraph office. Thomas was now 10 and in school, as was Grace. The twins would start the following year. Nathan and Delilah attended school programs and town meetings, fully integrated into the community. No one remembered anymore that Delilah had once been a frightened woman running from her past. She was simply Mrs. Pierce, Nathan's wife, mother of 5, respected member of the community. One day in the summer of 1882, a letter arrived at the ranch. It was from Denver, addressed to Delilah. Her hands shook as she opened it, afraid it might be from Samuel Armstrong, though she had not heard from him in nearly 10 years. But it was not from Samuel. It was from a lawyer, informing her that Samuel had died in a mining accident. He had no other living relatives, and his small estate, such as it was, had been divided among the miners he had worked with. The letter was simply to inform her that she no longer needed to fear any claim from him. Delilah read the letter twice, then handed it to Nathan. He read it silently, then looked at her. "He is gone," Nathan said. "You are truly free now." "I have been free for 10 years, Delilah said, "since the day I married you. But yes, it is good to know he cannot ever hurt anyone again." They burned the letter in the stove and never spoke of Samuel Armstrong again. Life continued its pleasant rhythm. Thomas grew into a tall, capable young man who was clearly going to be a rancher like his father. Grace was turning into a beauty, with her father's gray eyes and her mother's warmth. The twins were in school and doing well, though they still managed to find plenty of mischief. And Hope was a happy, sunny child who seemed to find joy in everything. In 1885, when Nathan and Delilah had been married for 12 years, they added one more child to their family. Another son whom they named Samuel, but not after the man who had once threatened their happiness. This Samuel was named for Nathan's father, Samuel Pierce, who had built the ranch that had become their home. 6 children, Nathan said, holding baby Samuel while the other children crowded around. "We have 6 children. Is it too many?" Delilah asked, though she was smiling. "Not nearly enough," Nathan said, grinning at her, "but maybe we can stop for a while and just enjoy the ones we have." "That sounds like a good plan," Delilah agreed. As their children grew, Nathan and Delilah began to talk about the future. Thomas was nearly 13 now, old enough to start thinking about his role on the ranch. Nathan took him aside one evening and told him that the ranch would be his someday, that everything Nathan had built was being built for his children. "I want you to know something," Nathan said to Thomas as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "This ranch is yours as much as it is mine. You are my eldest son, and someday it will all be yours to run. But I hope that day is a long way off, because I am not ready to stop working yet." "I hope so too, Papa," Thomas said. "I want to learn everything from you. I want to be as good a rancher as you are." "You will be better," Nathan said confidently. "You already have a better understanding of the animals than I did at your age. You are going to do great things, son." The years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. There were hard winters when they worried about the cattle, dry summers when the creek ran low, sick children who needed nursing, accidents that required mending. But through it all, Nathan and Delilah faced everything together, their love growing deeper and stronger with each passing year. In 1890, when they had been married for 17 years, the whole family gathered for a photograph at a new studio that had opened in town. It was an expensive luxury, but Nathan insisted. He wanted a record of their family, all of them together. They stood in the studio, Nathan and Delilah in the center with baby Samuel, now 5, between them. Thomas, 17 and nearly as tall as his father, stood behind them with 15-year-old Grace beside him. The twins, 13 now and finally starting to look slightly different from each other, flanked them on either side. Hope, 10, stood in front, grinning at the camera. "Stay still now," the photographer said, ducking under his cloth. "No smiling, please, this will take a moment." They held perfectly still and the flash went off. When they received the photograph a few weeks later, Delilah cried when she saw it. Her family, her beautiful, perfect family, captured forever. "Look at what we built," she said to Nathan, tracing the faces in the photograph. "Look at what we created together." "We created a miracle," Nathan said simply. "Every single day with you and these children is a miracle." Thomas left for college in 1891, heading to Denver to study agriculture and animal husbandry. It was hard on everyone, especially Nathan, who had gotten used to working side by side with his son. But they all knew it was important for Thomas to get an education, to learn the newest techniques for ranching. "He will come back," Delilah assured Nathan as they watched Thomas ride away on the stage. "This is his home. He will always come back." And she was right. Thomas returned every summer to help with the ranch work, and when he graduated in 1895, he came home for good, full of new ideas and energy. "I want to try some new breeding techniques," he told Nathan enthusiastically. "And I have been reading about irrigation systems that could help with the dry years." Nathan listened to his son's ideas with pride. Thomas was going to take the ranch to new heights. He could already see it. And he was happy to step back and let him, to watch his son become the man he was meant to be. Grace, meanwhile, had grown into a stunning young woman. She was 19 now, and young men from all over the county came calling. But she was picky, refusing to settle for anyone who did not meet her high standards. "I want what you and Mama have," she told Nathan one evening when he teased her about turning down yet another suitor. "I want real love, the kind that lasts. I am not going to settle for anything less." "Good girl," Nathan said, hugging her. "You take your time and find the right one. He is out there somewhere." The right one turned out to be a young rancher from the next county over, a man named Daniel Wright, who was quiet, hardworking, and completely smitten with Grace. They were married in 1897 in a beautiful ceremony at the church in Manassas, with the whole town in attendance. As Nathan walked Grace down the aisle, Delilah thought back to her own wedding day, so simple and rushed compared to this, but no less meaningful. She caught Nathan's eye and smiled, and he smiled back, both of them remembering. The twins graduated from school and decided they wanted to try their hands at different things before committing to ranching. Jacob went to work at the general store in Manassas, and Joshua took a job with the railroad. Nathan and Delilah supported their choices, knowing that not every child was meant to be a rancher. Hope, now 16, had discovered a talent for teaching and planned to attend the normal school in Denver to become a teacher. And young Samuel, now 15, was still deciding what he wanted to do with his life. "They are all finding their own paths," Delilah said to Nathan one evening. They were alone in the house for the first time in years, all the children either grown and moved out or old enough to be off doing their own things. "Just like they should be," Nathan said. "We raised them to be independent, to think for themselves. Now we get to watch them fly." "It is strange, though," Delilah admitted. "After all these years of a house full of noise and chaos, it is so quiet now." Nathan pulled her close. "I kind of like it. It reminds me of when it was just you and me and baby Thomas. We have come full circle in a way." "We have," Delilah agreed. "And what a journey it has been." In 1900, Nathan and Delilah celebrated their 27th wedding anniversary. They were both in their early 50s now, graying and showing the marks of a life of hard work, but still strong and healthy. The ranch was doing better than ever under Thomas's management, and all their children were thriving. They threw a big party at the ranch, inviting all their children and their families. Grace came with her husband Daniel and their 2 small children. Thomas brought his new wife, Mary, whom he had married the year before. The twins came from their respective jobs, and Hope came home from her teaching position in a small town north of Manassas. Samuel, now 20, still lived at home and helped Thomas with the ranch. As Nathan looked around at the gathering, seeing his children and grandchildren, his heart was full. He thought back to that day 27 years ago when he had seen a desperate woman stumbling toward the water trough, a baby hidden under her shawl. He had never imagined then that his simple offer of help would lead to all of this. "What are you thinking about?" Delilah asked, coming to stand beside him. "About how lucky I am," Nathan said. about how one moment of compassion changed my entire life. Our lives, Delilah corrected. It changed both our lives. You gave me everything, Nathan. A home, a family, love, safety. Everything I have, everything I am is because of you. That is not true, Nathan said gently. You brought yourself here. You saved yourself and Thomas. I just gave you a safe place to land. You did the rest. We did it together, Delilah said firmly. Everything we have built, we built together. Nathan could not argue with that. They had built a life together, a family together, a legacy together. And as he looked out at their children and grandchildren, he knew that this legacy would continue long after they were gone. The years continued to pass, bringing both joys and sorrows. Mrs. Henderson passed away in 1903 at the age of 82, and Nathan and Delilah mourned the loss of the woman who had helped them when they needed it most. They made sure she had a beautiful funeral and a prominent headstone in the cemetery. In 1905, Thomas and Mary had their third child, a boy they named Nathan after his grandfather. When they brought the baby to meet his namesake, Nathan held his grandson and cried, overwhelmed with emotion. I never dreamed I would live to see grandchildren, he admitted to Delilah that night, let alone grandchildren named after me. You have lived an extraordinary life, Delilah said, and it is not over yet. We have many more years together. And they did. As the new century progressed, Nathan and Delilah settled into a comfortable old age. They handed over most of the ranch work to Thomas and Samuel, who worked together seamlessly. They spent their days tending the garden, reading and visiting with their children and grandchildren. Grace and Daniel added 3 more children to their family, giving Nathan and Delilah 8 grandchildren in total. The twins both married eventually and started families of their own. Hope became a respected teacher and principal of the school in Manassas, though she never married, saying she was too devoted to her students to make time for a husband. In 1910, Nathan and Delilah celebrated their 37th anniversary. They were both in their mid-60s now, slowing down but still sharp and active. That evening they sat on their porch as they had done thousands of times before, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and purple. You remember when you asked me to marry you? Delilah asked, holding Nathan's hand. Right here on this porch, how could I forget? Nathan said. I was terrified you would say no. I was terrified too, Delilah admitted. Terrified of hoping for something good when everything had been so bad for so long, but you made me believe again. You made me believe in love and family and home. You made me believe too, Nathan said. I thought I was going to spend my life alone, and then you appeared like an answer to a prayer I did not even know I was praying. Let me be the father you both need, Delilah quoted softly, remembering his words from so long ago. That is what you said to me, and you have been exactly that. You have been everything we needed and so much more. And you have been everything I needed, Nathan said. My wife, my partner, my best friend, the mother of my children and the love of my life. I could not have asked for anything more. They sat in silence for a while, comfortable in each other's presence. The ranch was quiet, peaceful, exactly as it had been that first day Nathan had brought Delilah here, but so much had changed since then. So much had been built, so much had been lived, so much had been loved. You ever regret it? Nathan asked suddenly. Marrying me instead of taking time to figure out what you wanted on your own? Never, Delilah said firmly. Not for a single second. You saved my life, Nathan. You and this ranch and this family. You saved me in every way a person can be saved. You saved me too, Nathan said. I just did not realize how much I needed saving until you came along. As the sun finally dipped below the mountains, Nathan and Delilah went inside together, hand in hand, to the home they had built, the life they had created. And though they did not know it then, they would have many more years together, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, living out the rest of their days in the love and peace they had fought so hard to find. On their 50th wedding anniversary in 1923, the whole family gathered once again at the ranch. Nathan and Delilah were both in their 70s now, moving slower but still sharp-minded and full of love. They stood together as their family, now numbering over 40 people when all the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were counted, sang and celebrated. Thomas, now 51 and looking more like Nathan every day, stood to make a speech. "I want to thank my parents," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "My mother, who gave me life twice, once when she bore me and once when she chose to keep fighting to give me a better future. And my father, who chose me, who loved me when he had no obligation to, who showed me what it means to be a man of honor and integrity. I do not remember my birth father," Thomas continued, "but I do not need to, because I have had the best father anyone could ask for in Nathan Pierce. He taught me everything I know about ranching, about family, about love, and I can only hope that I have been half the father to my own children that he has been to me." By the time Thomas finished speaking, there was not a dry eye in the room. Nathan stood and embraced his son, his first son, the little baby that had been hidden under a shawl so long ago. "I love you, son," Nathan said, "more than words can say." "I love you too, Papa," Thomas replied. As the party continued around them, Nathan and Delilah slipped away to their bedroom. They stood at the window, looking out at the ranch that had been their home for 50 years. "We did it," Delilah said softly. "We built a life, Nathan, a good life." "The best life," Nathan agreed. "With you, everything has been the best." They held each other close. These two people who had found each other in the most unexpected way, who had built something beautiful out of desperation and hope, who had loved each other through everything life threw at them. Years later, when Nathan passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 83, Delilah mourned deeply but also felt grateful. They had had over 50 years together, a lifetime of love and laughter and family. He had been everything he promised to be and so much more. She lived another 5 years, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, telling stories of the old days, of the Wild West, of a time when a desperate woman with a baby under her shawl met a kind cowboy who offered her everything. "Let me be the father you both need," she would say, quoting Nathan's words. "That is what he said to me, and he spent the rest of his life keeping that promise. He was the father we needed, the husband I needed, the man we all needed, and I loved him with everything I had until the very end." When Delilah passed away in her sleep in 1933 at the age of 84, she was buried beside Nathan on a hill overlooking the ranch. Their headstone was simple but meaningful: Nathan and Delilah Pierce, together forever. The ranch continued under Thomas's management, then his sons, then his grandsons, and every generation told the story of how it all began, of how their great-great-grandfather Nathan had seen a woman in need and offered her his hand, his heart, and his home. Of how their great-great-grandmother Delilah had been brave enough to accept that offer and build a new life. It became a family legend, a story told at gatherings and holidays, a reminder of where they came from and what they were built on. Love, courage, compassion, and the simple but profound truth that sometimes the best families are the ones we choose, not the ones we are born into. And somewhere in whatever comes after, Nathan and Delilah were together still, watching over the family they had created, proud of the legacy they had left behind. Because their love had not just lasted a lifetime. It had created lifetimes, generations of people who carried their love forward into the future. It all started with a woman hiding a baby under her shawl and a cowboy who said, "Let me be the father you both need." And from that single moment of compassion and courage, an entire family tree had grown, strong and beautiful and lasting, just like the love that had planted its first seed on a hot summer day in Manassas, Colorado, in 1873.